Hey, everybody, this is Ryan, and I'm going to be starting a podcast on my Engage the Word page. And I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do and why I'm going to do it. And hopefully, this will be something that you get something out of. But at the end of the day, my little paper that I'm reading from, the things that I want to say here, the title on this thing is called The Podcast That I Want. The first thing that I want to do is talk about things that are going to fill me up with something that's good, and especially not the opposite of that. I don't want something that's going to fill me up with stuff that's rotten. And I've been feeling that a lot lately. I really enjoy, just by way of hobby, I guess, I really enjoy following politics and staying on top of what's going on and what people are doing and what people are saying. And so I listen to a lot of podcasts that help me to follow along with that sort of stuff. And I also like the things that are happening around me. So social podcasts, people who are talking about trends, the trend of the day, stuff like that. And just honestly, I can feel myself being filled up with stuff that's not good. I was looking the other day through Philippians chapter 4, and this is one of the things that really sent me over the edge. Philippians chapter 4, I'm going to start in verse 5. It says, "Let your reasonableness be known to everyone." Have you ever noticed this? Whenever you are super plugged into the political and social podcasts, or you talk to somebody who's super plugged into those podcasts, that we kind of get into a spot that is not defined as reasonable. We make an awful lot of sense to ourselves. And if you talk to another person, especially who is super plugged into those podcasts, you're going to be able to have a conversation. But if anybody else is in the room listening to what you're saying and they don't know what you're talking about, you just sound like a kooky nut job. And I find that the things that I'm listening to and the things that I'm filling myself up with are not helping me to be a reasonable person. If you jump down a little farther in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 7, it says, "The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." Come on now. Listening to politics and social commentary is not necessarily the thing that's going to fill you up with the peace of Christ that surpasses all understanding. In fact, it's going to do the exact opposite of that. Um, Fill you up with anxiety and stress and worry about all kinds of things that you can't even control anyway. And so, I'm kind of done with that. Verse 8 says, "Do this instead. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." And so if you think about the podcasts that I've been talking to, they are not that. And so what I want to do is fill myself up with something that is that, something that's true and something that's pure and something that's good. So why not just listen to something that's already out there? The internet is full of sermons and classes. Well, if I'm going to talk about the podcast that I want, let me tell you why I'm not just going to listen to a sermon or a class. I know something about sermons and classes. Whenever I do my reading and my preparation and I put my notes together and I present a sermon, uh, one of the main steps, I think, a critical step for having a good sermon or a good class is to cut, 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 to get rid of everything that doesn't need to be said. Just completely whittle that thing down to the main point, to communicate it and illustrate it in a way that gets the message across, for that thing to be organized and also for that thing to fit within my allotted time slot. And also, when I'm doing that sermon in that class, it's going to be for all different kinds of people. I'm going to have 4-year-olds who are just now starting to pay attention in church, and 20-year-olds who are 20 years old who are 20 years old. And 30-year-olds who are 30 years old. And 40-year-olds who are 40 years old. And 50-year-olds who are 50 years old. And 60-year-olds who are 60 years old. And 70-year-olds who are 70 years old. And 80-year-olds who are 80 years old. And 90-year-olds who are 90 years old. And 91-year-olds who are 91 years old. And 92-year-olds who are 92 years old. And 93-year-olds who are 93 years old. And 94-year-olds who are 94 years old. And 95-year-olds who are 95 years old. And 96-year-olds who are 96 years old. And 97-year-olds who are 97 years old. And 98-year-olds who are 98 years old. And 99-year-olds who are 99 years old. And 100-ye 75 or 80-year-olds who have been listening to sermons for a long time. And I'm going to be talking rather to people who have been Christians for 40 years or more, and somebody who's not even a Christian, maybe somebody who doesn't even want to be a Christian yet. And all that stuff has to be funneled into this sermon or this class. And there's a time and a place for that. But what that means for me is that when I was doing my reading and my research and putting my notes together, that all of this effort to put things on paper in my note file that I thought were valuable, that meant something to me and that I want to share with the world, they're just going to get cut. Like 90% of the notes that I write, it's just going to get cut, and it's going to die in the graveyard of the bottom of my notes file, never to be seen from or heard from again by anybody. And another thing is, nobody wants to hear me wander off into the weeds to talk about side subjects or read long quotes. And so there are a lot of different things that I want to talk about, and a lot of different things that have value and meaning to me that I want to share with other people. And a sermon in a class is just not the format to get that done. And so I want a place to do that. I want a place where I can say all the things that I want to say and talk about all the stuff that I want to talk about. And one other thing that I'm thinking of here is I want to talk about it in the way that I listen to a podcast. When I listen to a podcast, I'm not sitting at my desk writing notes, trying to have something that I can remember for all time. I might record something and put them in my notes eventually, but when I'm listening to a podcast, it's when I'm driving down the street and I'm half in and half out, or when I'm even going for a jog or for a walk or in the woods or something like that. So that's what I'm after. That's the thing that I'm looking for. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Revelation. I've done some stuff with my Engage the Word Bible highlighting on Revelation. It was super high level structure. My Bible's marked out so I can navigate and see where I am in the text. But now I want to get down into the weeds and talk about some of the details with Revelation. So let me tell you where you can find it. My hub is engagetheword.info. I'm going to try and keep up with the socials. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and X, and so I'm going to try and post all the stuff connected with what I'm doing. And if you want to listen to the podcast, I've got accounts set up with Spotify and Apple and Amazon. So if you want to go ahead and subscribe to those, I am going to start working on my introduction to Revelation, and I will post and share when everything's out there and ready to go. Thanks a lot, and I hope to see you on this journey.